Hello, guys, and welcome back to the $1 Million Marathon. So, loads to talk about today in our third episode, and let's get things started. So, we look back at February, obviously moving into March now, and things went pretty well. But starting off with Max, a few big scores, a few close shaves. How'd it go?
Yeah, it was really cool. A couple of really nice sweats actually in really big tournaments. So I had two close shaves in the APL, the Asian Poker League on GG Poker. Ended up a second and third place for both nice 5-figure scores respectively. A bit gutted to miss out on a trophy because you actually, even though it's an online tournament with all the pandemic and stuff going on, they're delivering trophies to your house for these tournaments. So I really did fancy one. But yeah. And as everyone knows, and everyone's made a joke about giving out almost 1-1, also got second in the GUKPT. That's the Grosvenor UK Poker Tour. And, you know, all you boys are giving me banter, given I don't play any live tournaments, that I was going to win a trophy. When I was on a final table, I was going to win a GUKPT trophy, and I don't even play live. And then we bricked another trophy. So the long story short is...
Lots of money, zero trophies.
Yeah, exactly. I'm quite good at tournaments, but not good enough to win when it matters when there's a trophy on the line. But yeah, all round really nice.
Matches, though. There were some brutal heads-up duels.
Oh yeah. The GUKBT was it was. I think it was about an hour and a half, wasn't it, Gio? Because of my sleep pattern, we spoke about 2:30 in the morning. I'm still playing, and I'm just like trying to keep my eyes open. This 30-minute level was 50 big blind effective heads-up battle, and I'm like, wow, being awake. But yeah,
like
it was
one
a
of
lot
those
of fun.
playground games of chicken, like who's going to give up first?
Or fall asleep first. Yeah, we've all been there. How many times have you fallen asleep at a computer in the past? When I was younger, when I was like 18 and I was just starting to play, I always used to go to bed with my laptop. I've just got a couple of games left. I'll just lie down and get a bit more.
Yeah, but it never happens on an FT. It's almost like 30 left, 50 left.
Yeah,
left
exactly. You wake up suddenly to the alert sound and you've got 3 big blinds left.
Yeah, I feel like that's the theme for Geo as well, right? Like how often does it happen where you be on a Skype call and it's late at night and then all of a sudden George, whether he's on the same time, whether he's on the same time zone as you or not, all of a sudden it's just
It's on you, Gio.
Yeah. I've seen people fall asleep in live games, man. Old guys always fall asleep.
Same.
It's on you, sir. Oh, shock. Oh, yeah, fold again.
Yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Have you seen that happen on high stakes poker where Elliot Lesra was like falling asleep and then woken up and he's like, it's 500,000 pot. It's like Phil Lux, like, go back to sleep, kid.
He's great. He's actually great, Phil Luck. He's always one of the most entertaining on those shows. Shout out to Phil Luck.
So funny. So moving on, Endrit, big score in the millions, mate. Tell us about it.
Yeah, dream come true, mate. What do you want to hear?
Well, just how do you feel, first of all?
Well, to be honest, after the win, like my heart was just non-stop pounding. I genuinely thought it was going to explode. Like, it's a euphoric feeling, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everybody exactly what happened, like exactly what you won. Some people are probably not going to know, so.
Well, I started off by playing. There was a 5K millions main event. I started off by playing a few satellites, $50 satellite phase events. I think I played 6 to 8. I honestly can't remember, and managed to luckily get through to the final phase, and managed to bink the seat. Got through day 1A, and then I had to wait a week for day 1B to be played, and then the following Monday, after my day 1A, played day 2. My prep before each day 2, because prep for day 1 wasn't actually a prep. Like it was just a Sunday. You wake up, you grind. But prep for day 2, day 3, and day 4 I took much serious. I'd wake up, I'd read a few chapters of my book that I was reading at the time, and then wake up, do my morning routine, as some listeners have been watching following us will know. Like wake up, do a 6-minute workout, do 10-minute stretch, hydrate, and then I'd follow that with a hot bath followed by a cold shower, and then I'd go downstairs, make an omelette, and watch a few videos of poker just to get me into the right mental frame of mind before actually seeing any cards. And luckily it worked a treat.
Yeah, it did seem to. How many big blinds did you have at the end of each day? Can you remember?
Yeah, I think so. Day 1A, I got through like 120 bigs for day 2.
You had chunks, yeah.
That was absolutely chunks. Day 2, I got through as 3 of 28. Can't remember exactly the big blind, but I had like 62 mil, I think, which might have been like 80 big blinds or something like that.
Mm.
And then day 3, I got through as like overwhelming chip leader, which is obviously a great spot to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how did that feel? Like, how did that feel? So obviously, I know you've had a big score in the past. I shouted out on a previous episode, obviously in the WSOP online. So yeah, pandemic first of all treated you well. Let's just get that clear.
Yeah, how much did you win? How much did you win for the 5K, Endrit?
Just shy of 775k.
Good score. That is a big
Dream
win
come
score.
through, mate.
That's a
I
large
think the
amount
thing
of
that I
money.
was impressed by most was that when that guy offered you a deal, obviously you asked for a bit more because he was sort of asking for a deal a few times, I think, in the three-handed, right? And then he asked again in the heads up. So you asked for more, and then he said no to your terms, and then you were like, "Fuck it, let's cut them."
I wanted to see how it played out, and I quickly realised that playing for that much money was just getting to me. Like I wasn't actually playing my game, so that's why when we got to near even stacks, I thought, you know what? Because he asked again, I was like, you know what? I will accept the deal because I actually do want to win this trophy. So I thought I'll accept the deal, and they're playing for 50k. It's obviously still a lot of money, but I knew it'd also allow me to play my game, and it's exactly what happened. And I feel like after the deal, I just went on to absolutely crush him. And I mean, I had a few big spots that went my way, but that's just heads up, innit?
You had about a 60-40, right? And then it comes back to 50-50, and then I'm guessing, was it like the weight off your shoulders?
Yeah.
The money's in the bank, right?
That's it. As soon as the deal was locked up and we're playing for much less money, because obviously 50k is still chunks. Like any of us would be happy with a 50k score on any weekend, any month.
Absolutely.
And then that just literally allowed, like you said, took the weight off my shoulders, allowed me to just keep playing my game and actually focus on the game instead of the money. And it worked out pretty well.
And then even after you've locked up all the money, you've still got another sweat waiting to see if Party will actually give it to you.
Yeah, but that was my
Wow,
fault,
yeah.
and I'm just blessed that Party actually understood what happened, and shout out
it's
to Party for being
just a
legend about
precaution,
that.
isn't it?
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask though, Endrit, because like this is where it's really interesting. Anyone, who's like Leo, obviously could give more of an opinion on this to me, but anyone who's obviously farm tabled a big live tournament, and with these 2, 3, 4 day online tournaments, obviously the fact that you break for final table, I think it's a really interesting concept in the sense that, you know, for me, mostly as an online player, the majority of the time, you know, there's no break. You just there's 10 left, or there's 9 left, and now there's 8 left. You know, now we're just on the farm table. Now we're playing for
there's
massive
7,
page
now
up.
there's 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Ride
But you
the
had a
moment.
whole day. Yeah, you had a whole day, and you went in. You know, if I recall correctly, you know, top 4 or 5 or 6, right, was your biggest score, right? Like, because obviously there was huge pouts on that top table.
Top four would have beat it. Yeah.
Yeah, top four, that was it. Yeah. So like, how was that in terms of, you know, you've had to sleep? I mean, I'm sure you struggled to sleep, but you've slept being chip leader with 9. It was a 9-handed farm table, wasn't it? With 9 left, you've gone to bed, 9 left. What was that like? Because I feel like, you know, me personally, having played for a long time, played for lots of big, you know, had lots of big farm tables, none as big as that. I haven't even been in that position myself personally, but definitely there'll be viewers listening, you know, that have been nowhere near, you know, a farm table that big. So yeah, talk us through the thought process, you know, going to bed, chip leader with 9 left, waking up, because that's a whole different, you know, kettle of fish, right? Like obviously you say it was 3 of 28, which is a great spot, day 3. But waking up 1 of 9, you know, sitting on, I think it was 70,000 guarantee with 8,900 or whatever it was
So
for the
much
winner.
more pressure.
Yeah, like that's I think the kind of thing everyone listening's interested in. How did you go about preparing for the final day, the final table where the big money was to be won?
Well, first of all, shout out to Joshua Stanier because he was the performance coach during the GPA, and again, shout out to GPA Ginger Poker Academy because that helped my game loads. And I think honestly, without what I learned there, I don't think I would have actually been in this spot to win the tournament. So shout out to them too. But with Josh, he offered me 30 minutes free coaching just to prep me for the tournament, and he basically made me write down the thoughts I should be thinking during the final table. And the biggest advice he gave me was to reset every hand, which is breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out 4 seconds, every single hand, just to get back into the room, not like get lost with your thoughts. And to be honest, I thought I wouldn't like the day off, but I think I appreciate it just because it made me think what's my strategy going to be going into the final table. So I took that 24 hours, well, not 24 hours, but I took the time in between to literally prep myself and think, right, what's my plan? How am I going to tackle this final table? How do I think other people are going to tackle the final table? And like, luckily, it all worked. But yeah, thanks to Josh, because his advice helped a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a bit of a star-studded lineup as well, wasn't it? Off the top of my head, Chris Rudolph was there, wasn't he? Daniel Devores. There was a big party pro. I can't remember his name. There was a lot of good players. Yeah. So you're talking.
Flop.
You were Proud Flop, of course. I mean, you were trading blows with the best the game has to offer, really, weren't they? So weren't you? So yeah, very interesting, man. Really, really interesting insight. Like I say, I mean, I hope we all end up in that spot, but it's that big of a win that we may never. Like you could be a very successful player and never be on a sort of a final table that big, sort of three-handed with a player like Daniel Devores. So yeah, congratulations, obviously, mate. But yeah, really interesting to hear about your preparation.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I think it's almost nice knowing who's on the final table, because they understand ICM, so therefore now you can like apply ICM towards them in a certain way. I mean, Christian Rudolph still did not care. I feel like he didn't care about ICM.
You say he didn't care. There was definitely a spot like we're not sure about, obviously, which seemed close as well with Daniel, wasn't there? So it's interesting to see that some of the top players, I think they're there to win. I think in some.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I was the ICM, but I think we ran a spot that was interesting, wasn't it, from the final table? There was a couple of spots where I think you're right. I think some of these players with these.
The spot where he's peeled a 3-bet out of position with sevens, like being covered by Endrit, and
he was second. I was first. Yeah,
exactly. And looking at that in retrospect, and speaking to some other sort of like really interesting minds in the game, like that just on paper cannot be good, but maybe that there is a level of disrespect from these elite pros there, that they just do what they want and they go with their own, they sort of beat to the sound of their own drum in those spots, because they're
their own rules.
I mean, yeah, the thing is, this is what I mean. This is why I think it's so interesting, and I was sort of making the point about it, but also I don't think I'm personally qualified to talk to Chris Rudolph and Daniel Devores final table strategies, if I'm honest. But yeah, it was really interesting to see, because these are seriously elite minds in the game, doing things that when I run it, when I run them through a calculator, some of the spots, ICM calculators aren't agreeing with them, but at the same time, I think there's a lot to be said about just one believing in their own ability and edge. And sometimes I think if you take a big all-in spot and win it, a calculator can't tell you how much edge you're now going to have with the double up. Obviously, they try a bit of future game, the calculators, and I think it's just interesting to see that when the money's on the line, some of the stuff that you're taught intuitive and that's intuitive, and that you can run through a calculator, doesn't really mean shit when you're on the final table making the decisions, because sometimes these guys are kind of floating above the rest of us, right? And they just seem to know what to do when, right?
I think you should watch that that Ike Haxton podcast. He's like talking about this a lot, how ICM is not a perfect model, and at some stage, if everybody knows what ICM tells them to do in a certain spot, then it just becomes unfair, because if you have half of the chips in a tournament at the final table four-handed, you're expected to win half the time. But in reality, it's actually going to be more because of all the opportunities you get to take and because of short-term variance and stuff. So, like, he's getting deep into that topic that sometimes you can't just do.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
So the counter to that was that when you're not the chip leader, because the chip leader has such a massive advantage based on ICM, you should actually take more risks because of the future game, right? That's kind of what happened, because we saw a couple of, loose-ish sort of stack-offs, but there was future game there, and it kind of made sense, I guess, if they had the bankroll to sustain losing such a big equity spot, which I guess most people that qualify, and certainly Endrit, your first big 5K FT, it wouldn't have been the same for you, right? You wouldn't have stacked off as light in some spots as those guys that we mentioned previously.
Well, to be honest, when I did the call with Josh, we were talking about it. Like, one thing I've always been blessed with is, like, when I get to FTs, I rarely think about the money. I always try and use the money against other people, because I know they're thinking about the money. Whereas obviously against Christian Rudolph and Devores, you can't really use the money against them, or even Dimitri, because he's had massive scores. Whereas the other people on that table, I feel like they're going to be thinking about the money. So now it allows me to literally go a little bit crazier and get a bit out of line.
That's one thing. That's one thing I'd say as well, mate. Like talking to you after before the tournament, and the way that you played. Obviously, there was a stream we were all tuning into. It seemed like you were just, and it fits your personality type as well. One of the things I was most impressive. Just seemed like you took everything in your stride. Were really calm. Now, of course, you won some big all-ins and some big flips, as anyone to win any tournament needs to do. But the way you seem to hold yourself together. Obviously, cards up. We've all seen it. We've all seen some of the bluffs you made. Some of the plays you made on the biggest final table of your life. And I think that for me is, I think, is the most impressive thing, because I think that, a bit like what we were just discussing with those elite players. I think that anyone can, away from the table, no pressure on them, can play good, can know what the spot is, can know the ranges. But to hold it all together, like when there's all that money on the line, that's what for me just most impressive.
Yeah, there's so much more to it than just being good at poker in a vacuum. There's so much more to it than that.
We see it all the time, right? Like in our group, we have some study calls and stuff, and everyone talks an insane game, and you think, wow, what a great bunch of minds. And then occasionally we'll be like streaming our FT and like talking about it, and you just notice that I've noticed it within myself as well. You're just making worse decisions than you would if you were objectively looking at that situation without the money or the pressure being on the line.
Yeah, so no time limits, no nothing, and being able to vocalize what you're doing all the time as well. And
when you
emotions.
That's where I really feel like my edge comes from in live poker, is the extra time. Like when I'm just sitting there at the table, and it's very rare that anybody calls the clock on you. As long as you're not taking the piss, you're allowed your 3, 4, 5 minutes every now and then on the river to make a decision. And to me, that's where I'm able to dig out the like real peak of my potential. Whereas online, when you're forced into making the decisions, it's hard. Much harder.
After a couple of minutes on the river, people start to get a bit twitchy in live as well.
Yeah, like you're actually unlocking a new region of information all of a sudden.
Do you know what's the count again? You rip you just see this
the sweats, exactly,
trickling down. You're like, come on,
you do. You see impatience. You see things like people start to look away from the table. They get distracted by the waitress. They look at their watch. All these things. Like there's so much more information to be got out of it. Yeah, the fake. Yeah, and then there's all the fake ones as well. The fake. Yeah. I'll have a double whiskey, love. All right, you might be a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like it's usually the emotions that get in the way of you playing your best poker, and I felt that a few times on the final table, and I honestly think without that advice of resetting every hand, like I didn't reset every hand because it's hard to remember. Obviously, it's not something I'm used to. It's not a habit I'm used to. But every time I did feel my emotions get to a point of like, all right, let's just reset, and it honestly it worked wonders. It worked wonders.
So the takeaway is this 4 second in, 4 second out, just whenever you're in a pressure situation, just sort of, I guess, what is it about being present and about just making sure that you're in the moment rather than getting carried away? Because I know I've mistake.
Yeah, 100%. You don't want to think about what could happen. You want to think about what is happening right now.
Yeah, and I think also a mistake that actually reminds me of is having the tournament lobby open all the time when you're playing online and looking what's up top when you've got like 20, 30 left. It's irrelevant, isn't it? You're just one hand at a time. So
I think that's what you were saying, Endrit. I think that's for anyone who's listening, who's interested in getting better, becoming a serious poker player. One of the main edges I feel that we have as professionals, and I've always felt, and I've felt this literally since I was young, and when I did used to play a little bit of live poker when I was really young, and you're in a £50 tournament. Or in a 1-1 cash game or whatever. Like the fact that the money didn't mean anything to me, I could tell looking at people around the table, and you can feel it online with the way people are playing in the same way when you're on a final table. The fact that you don't care about the money, and it's not because you don't care about the money, it's because you have the bankroll, the experience, and also you know that if it's not this time, there'll be another time or another time or another time. Whereas if you're a recreational player who's playing for fun, you fired in this $50 or $100 tournament, there's like 10 grand to the winner. That may never happen to you again, or definitely not for a while. And it's a really big deal, each pay jump. Whereas we're sat there knowing that, this guy's been, because you've seen it online loads of times, right? And you've definitely seen it physically live, you boys. Guy's really, really, really aggressive, has a big stack, maybe loses a pot. The final table pops up. He's not chip leader anymore. All of a sudden, right into his shell. Fold, 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 fold. I'll try and get to the last 5 or 4 or 3, and then maybe I'll open up my game again. And I'm sat there just stealing that guy's blinds every time, free betting him when he opens, putting pressure on him, putting them all in, over bluffing against them, because that like I say, if it don't work out for me, when in an hour or 2 hours or a week or 2 weeks, I'll be on another big final table. These guys won't, and I think that's where you gain a large amount of your edge. So even if the money does mean something to you, acting like it doesn't is a major edge you have over someone. Major.
It's very. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say that's a good point because like what I kept saying to myself before the FT was, it's just another FT. Like I've played countless FTs. Forget the money's there. Like it's all about the stack sizes and your opening ranges and how out of line you can get and whatever. And it's literally just another FT. Like I've been on plenty of FTs with as chip leader, as lowest in chip stack, as middle chip stack. So I've got enough experience with FTs, and it's just about, like you said, playing another FT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
can we just go to Leo actually, because I wanted to ask about your Battle of Malta FT and also the WPT one in terms of like building up to a live tournament. Because obviously Endrit was talking about you drafted in a mental coach and you've done your routine, but going into live, there must be sort of like a palpable tension in the room. You know, it's a bit of a different ball game, isn't it? So when you're
definitely
stepping into the arena, do you want to just talk about that for a while?
WPT was, I didn't feel much pressure or stress or anything. I felt very excited when I made that final table because it was like my first big final table, and I was like, I've been waiting for this moment. So I'm like, now it's here, you know, I'm buzzing, I'm ready to go. And I didn't do any like crazy prep. I was always prepping when that tournament run happened. That was like about 6 months after I'd started really organizing my routine and having some structure in place. And that really consisted of like getting up, going swimming every morning, eating a healthy breakfast and stretching, and then going and playing. And I think that kind of ties into like what Endrit was saying about the breathing thing. Swimming just gets you breathing in a really like healthy and meditative way at the start of the day. And it just lines up the rest of your day to be really like clear and quite productive. So I'd swum on that day. I'd swum every day of the WPT. We were all staying in a house in Nottingham, and then literally before the final table, we made the final table, we broke, and I just went out to the car with Endrit and Kellett, and we were just sat in the car for like kind of 20 minutes discussing it. And I was like, it was all a bit surreal, you know, 300 bags up top, and I'm just smoking a joint in the car park in Dust Till Dawn, thinking, right, let's have you. And then when it started, I was like a bit kind of spaced out, I guess, for the first few minutes, you know, like looking around, seeing people on the rail, all the lights, they're asking you to put the mic on and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, all right, whatever. And then, but as soon as you get a couple of cards in your hand, you know, it's back to, you just kind of snap back into it, you know, like you said, it's just another final table. You just kind of fall into it. And then from then on, it's poker.
Yeah, I say that, but to be honest, I've experienced a big final table live, and it's completely different to online because I feel like the pressure did get to me live. Because, like
really?
you said, you've got all the lights, you've got everyone watching, you know, people are going to be watching, and yeah,
I quite like that pressure, to be honest, because I have a history of like competitive karate, basically, and I quite like the pressure because it gives you something to like a reason to perform, I suppose, and so I don't really feel that pressure so much. I felt all right with it, to be honest. And then Malta was much different though, because that tournament had like, the WPT had like, I don't know how many runners, like 300, 400 runners, and a lot of them were regs because it was a 3K. So, you know, it's not crazy to them to have seen a final table playing out and for them to, you know, walk past it and see it. Whereas Malta was this huge 4,000 player field with every player, if not more, with every player you can imagine. Yeah, so recreational, and in this huge venue. And the final table was right in the middle of the room with all the cameras on top and around, and we all sat on one side of the table. And then they did like, you know, introduction on the way onto the final table. And seat 8 was 3.1 million in chips, you know, and it was, so that was a bit more like of an ordeal. And there's more people in the room, and there's more of a buzz in the air. And
an experience that was.
Yeah, that was much more like of a experience than the WPT. The WPT was very much like a grind because it was like also a lot of regs. There was like Manik Loza was on the final table, and Maria Lampropoulos, and who else was there? Ryan was there.
Ryan was there, and so was the guy who won it had been on an absolute heater as well.
Yeah, Simon Brandstrom. Yeah. It was a really tough final table, actually. But then Malta, Malta obviously was just like Steve Van Zadelhoff, and then everybody else was like was like a rec basically, or like a average reg. You know, there was nobody who was really any good. A couple of like 50-year-old dudes. This guy sat next to me who'd been on my table for a while, who was just insanely tight. You know, he had no hope of finishing above 6th or anything because he was just going to fold his way there no matter what. But that one was really buzzy. I really
that's
enjoyed
exactly what we're talking about, though, hey Leo. Like that's where you, as a professional, gets to take advantage, right? The
it.
guys,
Absolutely,
in his 50s. How much was up top in the Malta one?
330 again, I think.
Yeah,
Something
like 300,000 euros or whatever. Like more money than, with all
euros, of
respect,
course. So it's
more money than most people ever see. Like with all respect, like myself included, up to this point in a tournament, like that is a lot of money. Like, and you're 50-something bloke, maybe what was the buy-in?
500.
500, yeah. Maybe you just gone to Malta and it's only, everyone. Most people got 400 quid in their bank account, but most people don't have 330,000 quid in their fucking bank account.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's obviously, maybe he's got kids, and he's sat there, and it's like, I can buy my kids a car each with this, my 3 children, and you know what I mean, or like, or give them a deposit for a flat, or like seriously, Whereas you're sat there like. You're sat there like, well, look, if I don't win this one, it'll suck a bit. But look, next week I'm going to play this 1K here, and next month this 2K here,
And it was fortunate because those 2 final tables happened quite close together. They were like 6 weeks apart. So I still kind of had the experience of the last one. And now I was like, well, I'm ready for this now, like I'm prepared. I had this kind of warm up a few weeks ago or whatever. But for me, like one of my biggest edges really comes from that stage of the tournament when it starts to get deep, because I'm very much like a live reads kind of player. Like exploitative live reads kind of player. The more pressure there is on other people, the better it is for me, because the more things they let slip, the more mistakes they're starting to make, the more live tells I'm starting to see, and that kind of thing just doesn't affect me. Like I never.
Also, more energy they've got to expend on making themselves try
exactly.
Yeah.
I've never really had that problem of like feeling like I'm giving things away. I mean, Gio said to me once in the past how like I just have this way at the table, where I'm just sitting there and you look at me and you're like, I've just got no idea what's going on here. Like, whereas for me with other people, I'm looking at them and I'm seeing like, oh, I've just noticed the way he's like moved his hand here, or I can see his heart beating in his neck, or the way he's looking around the room. Would you do this during this hand? And yeah, as you get deeper, more of those things come up.
I think you're very probably just ties in with the whole live player package, but you're just very level in general.
Very stoic
Leo.
presence at the table.
Just very level. Like I've not played with you live, so I've not actually seen you at the table, been at the table with you. But in terms of just your general personality, just very level. Like good thing will happen, bad thing will happen. Does your face change that much? Not really. Like, do you know what I mean? Still smiling.
The thing is, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, I'm quite envious of people sometimes who are able to experience such like levels of elation and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can't really have that without also feeling very strongly negative. So, although I don't necessarily like thrive in the upside as much as some people do, I also don't think that the negatives take me quite so low as other people might kind of suffer them.
Yeah, can I chime in on that? Because I'm definitely the sort of guy that if I win a big flip, I'm like fist pumping around the room. Come on!
I've had a deep
times where in Bratislava, I've come down from a tournament. I've just taken a massive beat on the river, like whatever, 20 left, 100k up top, whatever, and I come downstairs, and I'm just like, I just feel like my heart just sinking down towards my towards my stomach. And then the floor man's like, "Hey, George, to PLO." Honestly, please. That is the last thing I want to do right now. I'm just going to order a McDonald's and go to sleep. Like,
best thing ever is I've had a Skype call where like one of the boys will be like, we're all got tables and we're all playing, but having a chat. One of the boys will be on a farm table with like 10, 20 grand to first. Like they win a big flip and they're like, come on, like quietly, come on. George is at like 50, 100 big blind in like a bowl short deck comp. Wins it all in and he's like, yes, come on, yes. It's like, I just love it. It's just amazing. It's like, bro, like I've had less elation for winning lots of money than you.
It's horses. It keeps my energy high, and I'm a high energy guy, and I need something to pump me up.
But then when you do that, when you do maintain that, inevitably in tournaments, that energy is going to come crashing to the ground at some stage or another, unless you come first. So
I was going to say, the only problem with that, Gio, is like when it does come crashing down, if it crashes down like 5 days in a row, that's when you lose the motivation. That's why you might enjoy it, but it doesn't mean it's actually a benefit, if you get me.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point because recently I've obviously relocated to Mexico. I don't know if anyone watching knew that, but so I've come to Mexico, got on the grind. We had Dan Moran and Jack Hardcastle here for a while. Me and Dan were putting in loads of volume, playing loads, getting some decent results. Those guys went to Vegas. I stayed here, and since then it has been sort of 4 or 5 sessions in a row of just sort of like, oh, no, not again. And
Do you
this
think
kind
that comes? Do you think that's like a coincidence, or do you think that's linked to the fact that like there's less people around you now, morale's a bit lower, and
well,
it's
because I'm
harder
an
to grind by
extrovert,
yourself?
yeah, because I'm an extrovert, I like those dynamic situations where you're with someone and you're talking all the time. And when I'm on my own, I am a bit less motivated to perform and even just do the stuff around. Like me and Dan we're in somewhat of a routine. Whereas now it's kind of difficult to motivate myself to get into that because there's no one else to sort of bounce off, if you know what I mean.
Well, I'm leaving tomorrow, so. Oh no, wait, not tomorrow. Monday. I'm coming to see you.
Yeah, you're coming in. So we're going to go to Tulum, which is going to be it's like a paradise next to the.
I've just been looking at pictures. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Honestly, it's unbelievable.
I don't really do the jealousy thing, boys. Like I don't consider myself to be a jealous person. I'm not going to say I'm jealous of you, but I would love to be in Mexico. I went a year ago. I went a year ago, just before pandemic, February 20, and it's one of the best places I've ever been in my life. Obviously, you know
Really
that,
looking
George,
forward. I just having that break and the freedom,
mate.
just going to a bar, having a drink, sitting on the beach, watching the sunset. Having warm air on your skin, and then
Yeah,
just
the weather.
Oh
the weather,
yeah,
mate.
It's the hot
Weather,
weather.
the food. I mean, George is there now, but mate, oh well,
yeah.
The food
such
is-
a great place. Shout out to Mexico. The guacamole is out of this world.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a nice burrito.
Yeah. They make it fresh, mate. Mate,
So good. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going 2 weeks on Monday to Mexico. We've got a nice little Airbnb, and then I'm gonna go up to America, play some tournaments in Vegas, go to Florida, I think. Play a little WPT out there.
Yeah, look at him. Look at the face. You talk about no elation. Look at him now. He looks like a kid who's just been given a ticket to Willy Wonka's factory, mate. Look at that.
Good in making me appreciate live tournaments. Like when we went to Bratislava, again, I don't think it's a coincidence that I've been like busting to play some live tournaments, and then we get there and just absolutely clean up because it's like the mindset was all part of it. You just like walk into the room and you're like, right then, what are we winning? Because it's my habitat. And then I sit on there and I'm like,
a wild Leo appears in Bangkok.
Honestly, man, that place that's absolutely under my thumb, that casino.
When you have that confidence, right, it's like it rubs off not only on you, but it rubs off on other people. They're just like, oh, I'm not gonna fuck with that guy. He's winning everything.
They get scared.
People get very defensive. Like by the last month that I was in Bratislava, I used to turn up at the casino on the weekends and sit down at the tournament, and people would just be like, for fuck's sake. Like you could just see them. You could just see them look at you. There was this one woman in particular, bless her. I used to sit down at the table and she'd literally just look at me and just be like, just completely given up before we even started. And I just sitting there like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna win again. But it rubs off in a negative way on the people you're playing against, but it rubs off on a positive way on the people who are around you. Like for you, Gio, it obviously like worked out, and like Jagger was having a good time there and doing well, and Jack came over, did well at cash games, and yeah, it's like when your mates are having a good time and your mates are motivated, it's hard for you to not feel that way. It
was a really good setup there, and I'm looking forward to doing a bit of a European tour again because I'm guessing that is it July, August. I mean, there's a series in Tallinn in Estonia. That's in July, so can't wait to get back in the mix for some.
Count me in, Gio.
All the little European destinations are just so good. All the little cities and all the Central European countries.
2 hours on the flight,
2 hours here, 2 hours there. You go to Malta, go to Prague, go to Latvia, go to Estonia, go to Bratislava. It's just so good.
It's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, it's what it's all about. That's the whole reason I got into poker. I never was like, I didn't start online at all. I started in my mate's house, and then I started going to the cricket club and the pub and the casino, and that was what it was about for me. Sitting down, lads have finished work. Let's have a game with the boys. Yeah.
Do you remember driving 45 minutes for a £30 tournament and stuff?
Yeah, every day of the week. There was like a year and a half period where I literally went to the casino every single day with my mate Aaron. Like we would just go and play the £30, £40, £50 every single day for a year and a half. Made like 20.
Even me at the start, to be fair, even me, I've ended up the online player that I am. But even me at the start, mate, I remember. Shout to Mike and Niall, two of my mates from school. Mike used to play professionally. for a few years. Now he's a lawyer. And Niall loved it. He used to play a lot when we was kids. And anyway, these two boys, mate, some of the places we went to, we got a train an hour and a half. So I'm from like Essex, like just outside Northeast London anyway. And we got from, if anyone knows the underground, we went from the right hand side of the central line right the other way, had a change, ended up in this old club called the Western. It took us about 2 hours to get there to play like £30 freeze out. Like
Yeah,
what we doing? What we doing? There's literally like there's like 4 or 5 poker clubs and about 20, I don't know how many casinos, but we've ended up at this one here. We used to go on London poker meetup and play like £20 fucking £10 rebuys in pubs and shit. That is
I used
what
to
it's all
drive.
about when
Yeah, I
you're a
used to
kid.
drive 20 minutes to play a £6 with a £5 add-on at a cricket club. That was it. That was all the buys. You weren't allowed to rebuy or anything. I'd drive 15 miles every week there and back
Mate,
just to play this.
Mate, we did this £10 one at a Top Golf. There's Top Golf near us, right? I can't remember who else used to play in it, but there was a South African guy who used to deal with a game called Comrade. We used to get like between 5 and probably 7 of us. And like, yeah, it was just like probably 30, £40 to the winner, £50 to the winner. They used to put on food, mate. We used to love it. We were like 18. They used to put on a bit of food. It was just a sit and go. And yeah, we used to turn up every Tuesday night. It was fucking amazing, mate. Yeah.
Didn't have anything else to do back
days.
then, though, did you? Like,
Yeah,
no
loads of
commitment, no
days.
job or anything. You just wanted to drive around and play poker.
Yeah,
I
and
think-
like playing any
It's
tournament.
good to reminisce, isn't it? It's good to reminisce.
yeah.
It reminds you of why you started and that hunger that you had when you were a kid. Obviously, it's minus EV to go to a 30+8 tournament or whatever it is, but who cares at that point?
Who cares?
You just
Yeah,
want
what
to
else
be
are you going to do?
Exactly.
I was looking the other day. I was going through some of my old posts and messages on that forum I mentioned, Surfers Poker, from years ago, and like it was just reminding me like the amount of times I made poker blogs of this challenge I was doing and this I was doing, just trying to spin it up, like trying to sell play money, trying to fucking
Play money.
I remember those
Mate,
days.
you could sell play money on PokerStars, right? So you used to get
Yeah, and
for
full
a
tilt.
million. So you used to get and full tilt, but I'd always spin it up on stars. So back in the day, I'm talking, probably before I was 18 as well as when I was 18. I'm not gonna lie. Back in the day, as all like all of us, obviously, you get your
Star's
dodgy.
name again?
Not this account. Obviously, obviously not this account. When I was a kid, like obviously, everyone did it. You start with your account, you get, I think you used to get 1,000 in play money, and you could refill it 3 times every hour or whatever. You spin it up to 100k, you could sell it for $1 to people, and then if you got it to 1 million, you could get $10, $9 for it. And I remember
What's the rationale of a person who pays real money for play chips when they could
Mate,
just deposit the real money?
You got done over, Max. You got done over on full tilt. You sell 100 million. I think it was 100 million for like $100. Easy.
Yeah, that's
Or did you say $1 million?
$1 million for $10,
Oh.
$12. Yeah.
Oh, I got done over then.
Yeah, sounds like you got done over, mate. You used to get, you made 5 million, you could spin up. But yeah, in reference to what you said, Leo, there used to be. This is before Black Friday, when obviously the Americans were allowed to play with us. Mate, there used to be like these communities, like no joke. There used to be communities, like there'd be these different games. There was all in or fold. They weren't set up by the poker site. Like, as in, people had their own rules on tables. You'd sit down on a play money table, and people would type in the chat box like, "Mate, this is an all in or fold table. If you're not going to go all in or fold, go away." And if you wouldn't go away, they'd all sit out and move table. And there was like they had like communities, like people probably were on messages of each other. So they play, and the idea was, I think, that they wanted to play poker, but they didn't want to play with real money. They just wanted to mess about and play money with each other. Yeah. I remember like being there. I'd go in there to try and just spin up, win my money, and leave or whatever. But yeah, I remember like people used to know each other at the table. Like it was a whole different kind of community.
That still happens, because there was 2 guys on a 6-mac table the other day. It was 510 PLO, and I was feeling a bit like, right, I'll take a shot versus these 2 clowns, and they were like, "Oi, Duckman, fuck off, bum hunter, we're playing together." Which is like, all right.
Wow. I mean, look, it's wild, but yeah. I mean, it's that's, I think, what always, like you say, Leo, that the being there, sitting down, staring someone down, traveling around was always the thing. But for me, I think what always attracted me to poker so much, and still does, and it's why tournaments have always been so much more my cup of tea than cash, is that like you can enter a $50 tournament and win 20 grand. How good is that?
Yeah.
Even now, when I'm playing 1K, he's playing 500, so you can win 500 grand, obviously. But like, just the fact that you can a little bit of money. I remember my first big score. Years and years ago, $11 tournament. I won 5 grand in it. It cost me $11 to enter the tournament.
I used to play a $1 hyper turbo rebuy on my iPad at the casino every night. They got 10 grand for first, and there was a bigger one in the evening. Got 30 grand for first in a $1 rebuy on stars.
Oh,
3x turbo, just absolutely mental.
Oh,
Do
that
you remember
one.
it? Do you remember
You
it?
could be,
3k
you could be in
chip and
for
then
about
30k
50
add-on.
units.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
that
in for
one.
$60 every day.
Exactly. It says $1, but it actually costs you 30 to get to
Yeah,
add
final
on.
tabled it a couple of times actually. That's a brutal tournament. That really brutal.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just like a Mansfield hyper.
Yeah, it was crazy. I don't know if George remembers these, but they used to do a 220 version, and it was a no limit Omaha high low. Again, 220, but actually 50 if you want to get to add on. And then it's just got thousands to first because everyone's in for every bullet ever because they see $2. They see $2 and they've got $30 in their account. They see $2 rebuy, and then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, they've done the whole $30 in the tournament. Like, it was mad times.
It doesn't take long either.
It's good. It's good to reminisce, guys, but I think we've got to cut it short there.
Yeah,
So, moving on to the next episodes, we're going to be talking about how relationships affect poker, and I think we've all got our own separate idea on what's going on there. And it was a question inputted by some of you on Instagram and YouTube. So thanks very much. As ever, if you have any suggestions, comments, feel free. We're an open book. We love to take on any kind of constructive criticism. Any final words from the rest of you?
Yeah,
not
just
really.
the general feedback has been excellent so far, and I just wanted to quickly shout out one of my friends, Sandar, who sent me a really great message earlier, and it was essentially he was having a really bad session the other day, and he took on Leo's ideology of doing the press ups on break, and then ended up shipping the 200 monster stack. So I just wanted to give him a shout out and say, keep following, keep listening, keep watching.
Thanks for
thank
joining
you
us,
all.
guys. On to episode 4 coming shortly. See you soon. Bye bye.
Take care,
Yeah.
all.
Bye bye.
Good luck at the tables.